She woke in the midday sun, pale lips trembling as she blinked against the bright hospital lights. Her chest felt tight, like cotton had been stuffed in her lungs. A snooze button on reality sent her drifting back toward darkness, but she forced. Her eyes opened one more time. She breathed in a shallow gasp, gathering every ounce of strength to form the words she had practiced over and over in her mind. Mom. Poisoned out her voice was a fragile whisper, barely more than a breath. A single nurse on duty, Elise Harper, froze at the foot of the bed, stethoscope dangling uselessly from her hand. The word hung in the air, heavy with dread. Poison, the girl repeated when Elise moved closer. Her pulse flickered under. Pale skin. Mom. Poison. Alarm exploded in Elise's chest. She sprang from her seat and hit the emergency call button on the wall panel. The loudspeaker crackled. Code blue. Intensive care, urgently. Every nurse on the floor would converge here in seconds. She cradled the girl's hand, pressing an oxygen mask gently to her face. Heart monitors beeped faster, crimson numbers climbing. The girl's eyelids fluttered, then drooped again. Elise squeezed her hand, murmuring reassurance she feared she couldn't deliver. Sirens already wailed in the corridor outside. The sliding? Doors burst open to reveal a teen clad in crisp white and navy. The charge nurse barked orders. 2 milligrams of atropine and a liter of normal saline. STAT. Prepare for activated charcoal. Draw labs complete metabolic panel. Coagulation. Profile talk screen. Get poison control on the line. The world spun into motion as tubes, vials, and masks raced toward the bed. The girl's face became a fragile porcelain doll, unpainted and vulnerable. Elise kept her hand on the girl's wrist, thumb pressed to the radial pulse. She murmured, "Stay with me. You're going to be okay." Time fractured into tasks. One nurse inserted in 4. Another poured charcoal slurry into a drip. A respiratory therapist adjusted the ventilator settings. A resident darted around, scribbling on a clipboard, then paused to check the girl's pupils. "Pinpoint, sluggish," she reported. "Organophosphate?" Elise said under her breath. "Could be insecticide." "Mom's here," the resident said quietly, nodding toward the doorway. A woman in her mid-30s stood frozen under the fluorescent lights, tear tracks shimmering on her cheeks. She clutched her purse like a lifeline. Elise cornered her. Gently, "Mrs. Lewis, please step back. We need to treat your daughter." She guided her to a chair nearby. The woman sat, knees shaking. Did she drink something she shouldn't have? Her lips parted in a tremor. No, she made her lunch, like always. She's so careful. "Do you have any idea what the substance might be?" Elise asked, watching the monitors. Heart rate falling. Blood pressure plummeting. The scene tightened. Every second a heartbeat away from tragedy. She whispered, "Mom." "Poison." And then she collapsed, Mrs. Lewis said, horror in her eyes. "I don't know what to think." Elise's radio crackled to life. "Poison. Control, Dr. Mills," the voice said. "Organophosphate suspected. Atropine dose is appropriate. Follow up with palidoxime if symptoms persist. Monitor for cholinergic crisis." Elise relayed the instructions. The team administered atropine, waited, then PRN palidoxime according to protocol. The drip slowed. The heart rate steadied. A collective sigh passed through the room as the monitors leveled. The girl's chest rose in a steadier rhythm. The intravenous fluids washed through her veins like a healing tide. Elise finally allowed herself a breath she didn't have to force. The doctor looked up. "We got her. Let's move her to ICU for observation. 1 more dose of atropine in an hour. Keep ventilator support for now, pending gag reflex return." They wheeled her down the hallway as Mrs. Lewis trailed behind, her wail echoing through the corridor. Nurse Elise placed a hand on her shoulder. "She's going to be okay," she told her, voice firm despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Mrs. Lewis collapsed into Elise's arms, sobbing. "Thank you," she whispered. "Please tell me she'll live." Elise nodded. "She will." Midnight found Elise alone at her desk in the nurse's station. The bustle quieted, the halls dim under low-watt fluorescent lights. She tapped at her computer, updating charts, making notes for morning rounds. The girl Emily Lewis, age 14, lay in an ICU bed beside the window, 4 fluids dripping like crystalline tears. Elise glanced up at the silent corridor. The hush felt unnatural, like the world had paused, waiting. She pushed herself away from the desk and walked to Emily's room. Through the glass, she saw her sleeping, ventilator whispering at her bedside. A monitor displayed a flat line, steady and strong. Elise entered quietly, washing her hands at the small sink. She checked the 4 lines, the ventilator settings. All within normal parameters. She placed a gentle hand on Emily's arm. The skin was no longer porcelain, but had warmth and a faint pink glow. She'd win this fight. "Good night, Emily," she whispered. The lights dimmed at her touch down the aisle. Hall, the charge nurse, ambled by. "You did good tonight," she said in a low voice. "That kid owes you her life." Elise shook her head. "Team effort." The charge nurse shrugged. "Still, without you, she'd be toast." Elise smiled tiredly. "Just doing my job." But, in the quiet of the night, with her stethoscope cold at her side, she felt the weight of every breath she'd helped save. Morning came too quickly. The IQ hallway buzzed with doctors, nurses, and the muffled hum of machinery. Dr. Michael Mills, the ICU attending, strode past Elise. He paused. "Good job yesterday, Harper." She smiled. "Thanks." He rolled his eyes. "No need to be." Modest. "The patient's stabilizing nicely. We'll attempt extubation this afternoon when her gag reflex returns." Elise nodded, relief blossoming in her chest. "That's great news." He walked on, leaving her to her rounds. She donned gloves and mask and entered Emily's room. The ventilator beeped softly. The girl had color, her chest rising with easy breaths. Dr. Singh, the resident, stood at the bedside. "Looks much better," Singh said. "Heart rate and blood pressure stable. Let's see how she does off the ventilator." They waited. Emily stirred, coughing gently. Singh eased the oxygen mask off. Emily's eyelids fluttered open. "Elise?" she whispered. The nurse thumbed her pulse. "You're breathing on your own, kiddo. How do you feel?" Emily swallowed, blinking against the light. "Thirsty and a little weak. We'll get you water in a bit," Elise said. "First, I need to talk to you." Emily sat up gingerly, blankets pooling at her waist. Singh hovered, clipboard in hand. "Any idea what happened?" Elise asked softly. Emily's gaze drifted to the 4 lines, dangling from her arm. "I don't know. I was at lunch with my mom. She brought me juice like she always does." "Elaborate on that," Elise prompted. Emily's lip quivered. "Mom said she made fresh juice. Said it would help give me energy for track practice. I took a sip, then another. I felt dizzy and collapsed." Elise exchanged a look with Singh. "Did your mom seem nervous? Anything odd about her behavior?" Emily's eyes filled. She was smiling, but her smile was different, like she was hiding something. Singh frowned. "We'll need to question her further." He scribbled notes. Elise squeezed Emily's hand. "We're going to figure this out together. You're safe here." Emily nodded, tears brimming. Meanwhile, in a small suburban house 2 miles from the hospital, Karen Lewis sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of cold coffee. She stared at the newspaper article about an alleged poisoning in her own home. A photo of her sick daughter filled the top of the page, hospital lights glinting off her pale face. She tore at the handle of her mug. What have I done? She whispered, voice hollow. Her husband, Robert, entered quietly. Karen? He caught sight of the article, snatched it up. Are you reading that? She said fiercely. Robert set the paper on the table. You need to call the hospital. I can't. She shook her head, wild fear in her eyes. They'll lock me up. Maybe you deserve it. Robert sat beside her. Emily's alive because the nurse was there. If you hadn't done this, she'd still be drinking and laughing. Corinne's body shook. I didn't mean to. How do you poison your own daughter by accident? Robert demanded. She stared at her hands. I didn't know it would hurt her. Then what did you do? He pressed. Corinne's breath caught. I put it in her juice so she'd sleep, she confessed, voice raw. Just a little something to help her rest. She's been so stressed, track practice, school, friends. She's always worried about everything. I wanted to give her a break. Robert's fists clenched. A break? You nearly killed her. Tears streamed down her cheeks. I didn't want to kill her. I wanted to give her something to calm her nerves. The doctor gave me a prescription for a mild sedative. I thought it was safe. Robert blinked. You gave her a prescription sedative without telling anyone? I thought it would be okay, she sobbed. She trusts me. She's in the hospital now. Corinne shook her head violently. Please, Robert, please don't call them. I'll turn myself in later. Just not yet. Robert's jaw tightened. He folded the newspaper. Tomorrow we talk to them. Right now, I'm getting you coffee. Maybe something stronger. Back at the hospital, Elise and Dr. Mills sat across from Mrs. Lewis in the consultation room. The air crackled with tension. We need the exact medication she ingested. Dr. Mills said, clipboard ready. Corinne Lewis looked like a deer caught in headlights. It was a prescription sedative. She has a script for anxiety and SSR. Sertraline? Dr. Mills interrupted. Corinne nodded. But the bottle was next to an old prescription for diazepam. I thought it was the same, just a stronger version. The dose she received was 7 times the recommended amount for her age. Dr. Mills said, tone even. That amount can cause respiratory depression, seizures, even coma. Corinne buried her face in her hands. I didn't know, she whispered. Elise, can you review the lab results? Dr. Mills asked. A nurse scanned the chart. Benzodiazepine level is extremely high. GGT and ALT elevated, but kidneys okay. We've given flumazenil to reverse the effects. Explain flumazenil? Corinne asked, looking up. It's an antidote that blocks the receptor sites for benzodiazepines, Elise explained. It should wake her up fully, reverse the sedation. Corinne's eyes were red. Will she be okay? Dr. Mills softened. She's responding. We'll keep monitoring her. But we need to discuss safe medication practices. Corinne nodded miserably. Yes, doctor. 2 hours later, Emily awoke. In her private room, the ventilator was gone. An oxygen mask rested on the bedside table. Sunlight streamed through the window blinds, painting stripes across the floor. She blinked at the unfamiliar ceiling. Her head felt hazy, like she'd woken from a dream. She sat up slowly, wincing at residual ache in her chest. She lifted her hand to her throat, no tube. Then she spotted her mother in the chair beside the bed, head resting on the table. Mom? Emily whispered, voice cracking. Corinne bolted. Upright, eyes haunted. Oh, Emily. She rushed to her bedside, wrapping arms around her daughter. I'm so sorry. Emily pulled back slightly, scanning her mother's face. Why did you do it? Tears welled in Corinne's eyes. I didn't want you to keep worrying. You've been so stressed. The script I misread it. Her voice shook. I thought one pill was for mild sedation. I gave you. Too much. I never meant to hurt you. Emily's gaze softened with understanding. You were trying to help. I was trying to help, but I almost killed you. Corinne held her daughter tightly. I'm never going to forgive myself. Emily closed her eyes. Pain and relief mingled in her chest. She squeezed her mother's hand. I forgive you. But promise me you'll talk to Dad before giving me anything ever again. Corinne nodded, tears streaming. I promise. That afternoon, Dr. Mills discharged Emily home with a strict plan. No medications without supervision, counseling for both mother and daughter. Elise gave a crash course on safe dosing as part of discharge instructions. At home, the air felt thick with emotions. Emily unpacked her things in her room while Corinne made tea downstairs. Robert lingered in the doorway. Can I talk to you? He asked Emily gently. She nodded. He sat beside her, folding his hands. Your mom loves you more than anything. She made a terrible mistake, but she's paying for it, and we're all going to get help. Emily leaned against him. I'm just glad I'm alive. He kissed her head. Me too. Days later, Elise stood by the nurse's station, charting the event in the incident log. She paused at the words, 14-year-old female, accidental overdose, benzodiazepine, administered by guardian. She tapped the screen. Accidental poisoning near fatality. She exhaled. Another life saved. Another family kept intact barely. A new face appeared at the station. A nursing student with wide eyes and a notepad. She approached Elise. Hi, hon. Hannah, I heard about the case. Can you tell me what happened? Elise smiled wearily. Sure, let's go over it. She led Hannah into the conference room, grabbing a fresh set of markers. First, we got the call. Patient collapsed. We suspected organophosphate at first, based on her whisper mom. Poison, but labs told a different story. Mom? Poison? Elise nodded. Exactly. That clue saved her life. It told us something was wrong with what she drank. Always listen to patients, even in whispers. Hannah scribbled furiously. Elise outlined the steps: securing airway, IV access, tox screen, identifying benzodiazepine overdose, administering flumazenil, monitoring vitals. She emphasized communication with poison control, team coordination, and family counseling. At the end, Hannah looked up with admiration. You really think one whisper can change the outcome? Elise folded her arms. I know it can. Never underestimate the power of a patient's voice. That evening, Elise drove home, traffic humming, under streetlights. She thought of Emily's whisper, Mom poison. She thought of her own daughter nearing 14. The weight of responsibility settled in her chest like a stone. She parked in her driveway and sat for a moment. Then she climbed out, unlocked the door, and stepped into the warmth of home. Her daughter ran to her, arms wide. Hey, Mom, she said. Did you remember? Elise returned the hug, burying her face in the girl's hair. I'd never forget what you say, sweetheart. And in that embrace, Elise knew she would always listen, always fight for every whisper that mattered.